Jake,
Yeah.
you see in front of you
Oh
a
shit.
pedestal. You've gone through multiple rooms of this dungeon, fought multiple enemies, goblins, bodies lay behind you, and in front of you is a marbled pedestal. And on it
It's
is a
beautiful.
plaque. It is beautiful. It's quite ornate. And the plaque reads, a bubbling golden ichor will satisfy the gods. Only one made from the root of a tree.
Uh.
Jake, please
Uh.
crack your root beer. It's time to record the
I.
episode.
I don't have a root beer today.
You don't have one today. The last two, when I made fun of you for having one, you had one. You don't have one today.
You made fun of me.
The one time I count on you. The one time I count on you. The intro is dependent on you having your root beer ready at the beginning of the episode. I almost called it the beginning of the session. It is kind of a session.
If you want to think about it that way, that's totally fine by me.
I guess that's just my D&D brain.
If it locks you in, that's all I give a shit about.
I'm always locked in, man. Speaking of locked in, I have a question for you, Jake.
Okay.
This comes from Reasonable Sun 9426. Not
Thank you.
like an overzealous sun, not like a tiny, just a reasonable sun. S-U-N.
I like a reasonable sun. Wait, is it sun like star or sun like
sun like star? S-U-N. So
that's nice.
Just a reasonable one. Reasonable Sun asks, how do you prevent players from making suggestions to another player when their characters aren't present? During my campaign, it was becoming commonplace for one or more players to chime in with suggestions as how another player's character in another location should proceed. It was driving me mad. Finally, at the start of a session, I explained my feelings that I felt it detracted from a player's role-playing and also my issues with every decision being made by committee. I asked them to let the characters who were present deal with the situation. That very session, the same circumstance reoccurred. After someone jumped in to tell the acting player what they should do, I said, that's no longer an option. Yeah, it's draconian, meta, and breaks the fourth wall, but so did telepathic suggestions coming from other party members. Despite the cons, the pro is that it was only a couple sessions before unsolicited suggestions stopped, and it was the players who shut it down. A player would start to open their mouth to recommend something when their character wasn't present, and several other players would jump in to prevent it. Though this has met with some success, I feel my solution is heavy-handed and would like to hear how other GMs handle similar situations. I think I have an interesting thought on this, but I want to hear your initial reaction to it.
I think that's pretty rad that the GM had said, hey, I don't like it when you guys do this, and then the players adopted it like relatively quickly.
It's good, yeah. If nothing else, great communication with this DM and their players.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So how do you feel about players talking to another player when their characters aren't present?
We do. I mean, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
Sometimes we will be like, if something funny comes up, we'll be like, oh my god, you should do this funny thing, and then but we're not like, we're just saying it as like, oh, this could be funny or this could be cool, but at the end of the day, it's up to the player. Once they start like discussing it, I think that's probably like a little much.
Yeah.
But if it's just like oh, this could be funny, or oh, this could be cool, like, that's fine. I don't see.
I do like that.
Hurt my feelings.
And I do think, I do like chiming in with like, this could be funny, or like things like that, just to make the, anything, if you're trying to make the game more enjoyable, like, it's not a bad idea.
Get a laugh or two out.
Yeah. And I think that there is a level where it's metagaming, like you said, like to probably a not very fun level where, like you said, if it becomes like this whole discussion, it's like I might, at that point, like if you feel like people all start kind of chiming in, I might focus in on the player that is in that situation to say, hey, these guys aren't here. Like, what do you do? And I think at that point, that's a pretty clear indicator for the other players to kind of back out a little bit.
Yeah, I think if it's a solo thing, like if you're focused on one player and like everybody starts chiming in, like as the player, I might be like a little annoyed.
Oh, sure. If everybody's trying to
but
tell
if
you,
there's like
yeah,
if there's like more than one person, then throw the. I mean, everybody can throw their suggestion out.
Yeah, I also feel like, especially in like 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, but maybe a lot of games. I mean, this could apply to a lot of games. There's a lot of rules. Everybody's characters does a lot of things, and so like I think like throwing out a reminder to somebody that like they might have an ability or a spell, I don't think is bad. Like I think especially if it's like a newer player, or like one of the lesser experienced people in the group, like throwing out like, hey, remember you have, charm person or something. Like I think that although maybe some people might find that metagaming, I think that's just being like a, like thoughtful, fellow player, like you're, because they do have access to it, and their character. That's the thing, is their character would know that. Their character would know all the spells and options they have. But reminding the player who might have forgotten, I think, is fine.
Yeah, I like that a lot actually. I mean, even I forget things that I have sometimes. In like when I was playing my last ranger, I forgot that I had savage attacker like at least half of the time. So and then I roll a 1 on my hit die and not re-roll it for
somebody else
I just forgot. But if someone else was like, "Oh, you've savage attacker, remember that?" And
it's like, "Oh yeah, thanks."
Fuck, thanks.
Yeah, I like that, and I think anything that your characters know
helps. It'll help the player also remember that they have that later.
Because it'll build up.
It's not just them. Like there's all the different ways of learning, and some people can learn just fine by reading something and putting it to memory, and some people need auditory or another visual type of learning style, and then that helps them remember it. So I like things like that. I would never ask a player to be like, "Hey, don't tell that guy that he has this ability."
Yeah, I think anything that their character would know is like fine to throw out there. Like even as the DM, you should be fairly familiar with like what capabilities the characters have and be able to remind them like, "Hey, like you do have this ability, like that could help you out here."
Yeah, you should probably have a decent knowledge of what's on everyone's player sheets.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's always a good rule. Also, just so that you're not like completely blindsided by something, like you should know, like session 1 or session 0 when people make characters. If somebody rolls a class that maybe you're not as familiar with, maybe you haven't played one, or you're going to get to a higher level than you've had with that class before, like you should definitely take some time in your prep to read through that class. Make sure you kind of know what kind of things they could be throwing at you. Cause
now, that absolutely does not mean that they still won't pull things out of their ass that you didn't even think
definitely.
of.
Or they'll use an ability in a way that you never even thought of. But it is good to have a general idea of what things they could be throwing at you for sure.
Yeah, that's why TTRPGs are better than writing a book.
Right. Yeah, like that. Being surprised by the players is always very fun. Sometimes not frustrating. Sometimes it is very surprising. It really catches you off guard, and you're like, "Oh, like how am I going to make this all work?"
That's completely ruined what I just was thinking of.
But that's a good DM skill to build up. Is being thrown off and being able to recover and make it all play out.
Yeah, always have a backup plan.
Yeah, for sure. And if you ever give your players choices, or even like a perceived choice, like you have to be ready for, whatever they choose. I saw a story recently about, how someone had their like BBG approach the party and offer them like great power, in trade for like their servitude. And like, this guy thought that his players would never just like bend the knee to the BBG and work for him. And then they did. And then they're like, "Yes, we accept." And he had no plan. He had no plan for like how this was going to go. He just thought it'd be a cool moment where they deny, we will never.
You thought it'd be funny.
We will never turn to the dark side. And then they were like, "Yeah, we do." And so
they're like, "Fuck, the dark side's so cool."
Yeah, so he went to Reddit screaming for help because he had no idea what to do.
That's so funny.
everybody's like, yeah, if you're gonna lay a choice out there, like you need to at least be somewhat ready for either option, for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because you never know when they're gonna be like, yeah, I'm gonna go rob that bank.
Yeah,
with you.
Yeah.
You offered me to rob the bank. I'm gonna go rob the bank. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh. I guess. What happens now? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess we're gonna fucking find out.
Yeah, I guess we're gonna learn together.
Yeah, literally.
Type in ChatGPT bank heist.
Wait, hold on. He's onto something.
Oh, I do want to say, do never feel bad about using ChatGPT. I've pulled a couple of puzzles out of ChatGPT before.
Yeah, I think everybody has their different thoughts on like AI and stuff. I think it can be a useful tool, like for things like that.
I think it's
good.
In
moderation. Like I don't think anybody wants like an AI generated campaign. Like I think you need some personality, some of your own flair in there. But especially for like kind of random, like spur of the moment things. Like if they kind of walk into a room and you realize it would be cool to have a puzzle or a riddle or something like that. Like typing in, to ChatGPT saying like, oh, write me a Dungeons and Dragons themed riddle about shadows or death or like whatever maybe kind of theming your dungeon has, can be like a real lifesaver to come up with like something cool like that on the spot. Where if they're in an area you didn't plan
riddle,
for or something.
Your ass is not coming up with a riddle on the spot. I'm sorry.
It would be tough. It would
be really hard. So and in scenarios where you're sitting there and there's like, oh, you can just run through this dungeon and attack things, but then adding a riddle at the end of it's like, oh, we can't beat up this riddle. Now we have to think.
Yeah, create some kind of a different challenge, a more creative challenge. And like it's not, your players will probably blow through it. They might figure it out or like have some tool to, get around it, but it's just a different kind of encounter that might be fun, and it's an easy way to grab one really quickly if you don't have time to prep, because riddles and puzzles and stuff like those take a lot of prep usually. To find one online that works and integrate it into your game or come up with your own even like is very challenging. So it's a good resource.
Yeah. Back to the main topic at hand.
Yeah.
Though. I personally do not see an issue with players talking at the table, as long as it's like within reason. If they start like debating when no one is a part of the situation on what one player will do, and the one player is not like having full control of their character at the moment, like that, I can see how that would be you'd want to put a stop to that pretty fast.
Yeah, and it'll be everybody's personal preference, like what level of metagaming they allow. Because I mean, everybody has metagaming to some degree. I mean, if you are not like fully method acting your character the entire session, then you have some level of metagame. Like,
yeah.
And so everybody just has a different tolerance for like I think how much or what they'll allow, and I think finding that for your group is really important. And so like, as a GM, like if something's bothering you, like, feel free to let them know, like this guy did, like just talk to him. Like, I just think that it, takes away from the game, takes away from the immersion. Like, I think it'd be more fun if, we didn't metagame in that way. But for the most part, like people, they people want to have fun and they want to perform well. Some people, that is part of the fun for them is performing well and being able to work together collaboratively to find a fun or cool solution to something, even if, it's a little metagamey, I think is fine. But just set those boundaries as a DM and don't be afraid to, at any point, be like, hey guys, this feels like a little much. Like, this character is in this, dangerous situation and I want to hear from them. Be like, what do you do? That's totally fine.
Yeah, I'm definitely of the opinion that if a player is alone in a scene, leave that player be alone in the scene. If there's two or more players, then let them table talk as much as they want to.
Yeah, especially if it's like a scene that has some like emotional weight to it. Like if they're just talking to a shopkeep and somebody's like, "Oh, can you buy me a health potion?" Also, like I forgot. Like I don't know. For me as a DM, like I don't care. That's fine. That doesn't bother me at all. If you don't like that and you're like, "Oh no, you should have discussed that beforehand," then more power to you. But I have no problem.
You're a little crunchier than
yeah, it's a little intense for me, but like that doesn't bother me. But if they're like in like a role play situation where they're like speaking to their god or deity or or a important character in their backstory, and you like chime in with something like, let them have their moment. It's a collaborative storytelling game. It is your responsibility as a dungeon master to spread the spotlight and make sure that everyone has their moments, and it's your responsibility as a player to let those other players have their moments. When the spotlight shines on them, you need to let them have that time. And if for some reason as a player you feel like your GM isn't highlighting someone as much, try to lift them up. Try to give them a situation where they can do something cool, or you ask something of their character. Try to uplift each other and give everybody time to feel cool, and that's how we're playing.
Yeah, I will say as a player, I've probably done this sin before. I've probably spoke up on someone's thing when I shouldn't have.
Yeah, it's hard not to.
It's hard not to sometimes. Yeah, you think, if you're doing something funny, like, this could be funny, or like I always have. I always get a little awkward when we start getting like intense emotional stuff. So then I might like crack a joke or something.
Sure.
Usually I try to do that only to when I'm in those situations.
Yeah.
But like it's good to not when people are in that. And I have recognized that a few times where I'm like I should not talk in some scenarios.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, that's understandable. All right. I think that was a solid.
Yeah. I've got we touched it a little bit here, but hold on. Pause. Kasudo Gaming asks, I'm drawing blanks on creating puzzles in my game. Any suggestions?
Wow.
So as the title says, I'm having trouble crafting puzzles for my players that fit with the NPC creating them. I really want to have satisfying puzzles as the NPC who's making them for the party, like jokes and tricks on others. I need at least 3 puzzles so far. I only have one that I really like. It's a small puzzle, and he goes on to describe it. Any advice or suggestions y'all can give would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Interesting. So we did touch on a way to come up with some quick puzzles or riddles, but it sounds like this guy is maybe interested in something.
Got some time.
Yeah, he's got some time. He wants something a little bit more fleshed out. Yeah, what were you thinking?
I could describe the puzzle that he has, if that would
Yeah, what does he have so far?
Okay, so this puzzle has a small trinket at the center of a circular structure. If the player attempts to walk towards it, they must make a wisdom save. If they fail, they cannot resist the urge to turn around, and once they do, they see nothing. Once they turn back, however, they are seemingly reset back to where they started walking. The way to complete the puzzle is to walk backwards towards the center, and once there, they can obtain the small trinket.
That's a good little puzzle. I like that.
That's a fun one.
Not like a crazy difficult solution, but something that might stump the players for a little bit of time, a couple moments. Did you have any ideas? What attracted you to this post?
I think it's something that all GMs struggle with at times.
Sure.
So I will use online resources, whether like searching through Reddits, or I have done chat GPT prompt before to see what it comes up with. And usually like what I find, I'm not 100% like this is what I should do, or chat GPT doesn't give me a very good answer. But what it does do is it gives me some ideas, so that way I can, this guy did this little mechanic right here. I think that's really fun. Maybe I can incorporate it this way.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. For specific examples, oh man.
Let's make a puzzle for them.
Sure.
Okay.
I had one I've done a couple of different things. I love just like a riddle, but I had one puzzle in a dungeon that was like tiles on the floor in like a maybe 10 by 10 grid or something that covered like the entirety of the floor. And on the other side of the room where the tiles stopped, there was like a man chained up to like a kind of X shape of like wooden beams. And then as they started to step on the tiles, those chains tightened and tightened until they were like pulling at this guy. And the solution was that you could only step on the tiles that formed like the perfect X across the square tiles on the floor. The kind of hint was that like the wooden beams were in the X shape. And you guys, I don't remember you struggling with that for two. You didn't?
I don't know. We did not figure out that it was the X.
You got around it some other way though.
Yeah,
I think somebody like wild shaped into a bird and flew across.
Yeah, someone. Yeah, that did happen.
So it stumped them for a moment. They had to come up with a different solution to get across the room, which they did. And so like that's the point, right? Like it doesn't matter if they figure out like the answer. Like they might come up with something creative to get around your puzzle, and that's fine because it served its purpose, right? They had to. It stopped them, made them think creatively to get around this problem that you've put there, and then you move on. Like they don't, you don't need to force them to come up with this super specific answer, which I think is good advice for all puzzles and riddles and stuff. I also had one where like as they were moving through this like haunted forest, ghosts would appear to them and like ask them riddles. If they got the riddles right, then the ghost would like allow them to pass and keep moving. If they got the riddles wrong, then the ghost would attack them and they'd have a little combat with like it was like a banshee or a ghost stat block or whatever. And so, not like anything crazy damning for the players if they get it wrong, but if they get it right, it feels good. They get to move on without having a combat.
I have always wanted to do the good old fashioned one of us tells only truths and one of us tells only lies. Except both of them just tell lies.
It's a little twist on an old classic.
I have not found a good way to insert it, but I think it'd be so much funnier for like to just sit there and have both of them just lie their asses off to you, and then eventually just someone might be like, "You're both fucking lying," and then the door just like flies open or something.
That's pretty funny. That'd be good. Yeah, like one of them, they're both telling you solutions on how to open the door. Like one of them says, like, "Oh, you must cast a magic spell for the door to open," and the other one's like, "No, you must use a great feat of strength to open the door." And then they try casting a spell, and then they try pushing on the door with their strong character. Neither of it works. Like, until someone realizes that they're both lying, it won't open. And as soon as somebody realizes it opens, that's fun. That's very funny.
I've tried it for like I've had that on the back burner for years. I've never used it. And I was like, I figured I just might as well just whip it out right now. I just feel like I'm just gonna reveal my longest standing secret.
If you're out listening to this, I would love to hear in the comments some riddles or puzzles you've used to stump your players before. That's very interesting to me. I like that.
Yeah, riddles are always fun. Thematic riddle is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Riddles are, you'd be surprised how, and this is coming from a player, how intelligent you might think you are in your day-to-day life, and then when someone presents you with a riddle when you're surrounded by your friends playing D&D, how stupid you actually are.
You definitely can feel that way, and I love riddles, and I think I'm pretty good at riddles. I will say though that sometimes in D&D campaigns specifically, it is tough if you present a riddle. If your players take some time to get it, and then one of them finally comes up with the answer, and they're all like, "Oh!" Like then that is when it's satisfying and fun. But I have had times where like it does get to the point where it's like dragging on for too long, and people are like frustrated because nobody's coming up with the answer, and like you have to then try to give hints, and then like eventually you might even give them the answer. Like it can land in a really unsatisfying way if you're not careful.
Yeah. I've seen some things where it's like, where it's basically a meme where it's like, if you're preparing as a dungeon master, just remember, as soon as your players sit down at the table, they lose 15 IQ points.
Yeah. Yeah, for real. So yeah, I would have a little bit more caution with like riddles and stuff like that. Like have like maybe a couple acceptable answers, and then also maybe have a plan for a couple solid hints if you feel like they're struggling, so you can get through it a little quicker.
Yeah, I've done a bad puzzle where I did a it was like you got handed a note, and the note had essentially what would point you to where it was, and I stubbornly didn't move it after you guys went somewhere.
I remember. I'm curious actually. I want to ask about that because I don't know if I ever got the full story of how that happened.
I have my OneNote, so I might be able to just.
Yeah, I remember we got a note, and the note led us to like a telescope in an observatory. And
you guys didn't go there first.
No, we did. I remember this.
No.
Hold on.
Shit! Yeah,
we went to the telescope, and it was pointed at like a tree thing, but then there was also part of the note. I think it wasn't a note; it was like a message stone. You played it out loud for us.
Yeah,
part of the thing was that it was like I don't remember the name, but the name of the tree was also very close to the name of the tavern, and like
because it was broken speech.
Yeah, like it was like this kind of choppy message. It was hard to hear, intentionally so by you, and so because those names were so close, we weren't sure if it was the tree or the tavern. But then we went to the telescope because it also led us there, and it was pointed at like the tree. So we went to the tree and like tried a bunch of stuff there and couldn't quite get the answer. Then we went to the tavern and tried a bunch of stuff there and we couldn't figure it out. And then we went back to the telescope.
I do have the notes still, so I can read out what it was meant to be.
Yeah, and this is just my memory of it. And then we went back to the telescope for the second time, and like then you like had us roll a perception check. And we noticed some like tinge to the telescope, and we like opened it up, and there was like a sending stone in there with the answer or something.
Yeah, and that was me like being like, I don't know what else to
do. Yeah. So how is that supposed to go?
Okay, so it said it was 11 Oak Hill and then cut out, so it'd be Avern, and then 2 days. So it said 11 Oak Hill, Avern, 2 days. So you don't get the full message.
Right.
And the full message was meet at 11 in Oak Tree Hill Cavern in 2 days. See you around. Which is what I believe that note ended up saying. But I had on my map, I had the Oak Hill Tavern and I had the Oak Hill Cavern, and I purposely put the tavern there so that way you guys would you basically use it like as a red herring.
Yeah.
And then
but we also like something about like the 2 days we didn't get. So then when we like tried to immediately go there and like couldn't figure anything out, we were really confused.
Nothing was there, and then that's when I was like, okay. And then you guys finally gave up, and then I was like, okay, here's the note. Because you're like, let's go back to the observatory. Maybe we missed something.
Yeah, which I remember being frustrated because, you know, as the player, a lot of times you assume everything the DM does is intentional. And so when we went back to the telescope and got a perception check to realize that something was off about the telescope and figured out to open it and there was something inside, I felt slighted because we didn't get that perception check the first time we looked at the telescope, which obviously, because that wasn't supposed to be there. That wasn't your plan for it to be there. But you had to make an adjustment on the fly because that puzzle was going on too long and we weren't figuring it out and we were probably a little frustrated with it. And so I remember being frustrated about that because I'm like, why didn't we get the perception check the first time? So yeah, keep that in mind, is like your players will assume the things you're doing are intentional. And so if you try to kind of, you know, quickly give them an answer somehow with something they've already interacted with or whatever, like they'll be confused on why that didn't happen the first time. Or I think, just in general, keep that in mind that like your players will think that you have this whole thing really planned out. So be careful about how you do decide to reveal that information if
and
things are not going well.
In my notes here, you guys wait in the cavern too, but the thing is that you like did it that night, and it said in 2 days.
Yeah.
So then I was like, so then you're like running after something that wasn't there, and I tried hard. This was like my second time running D&D, so
yeah.
I was at roadblocks, a couple of roadblocks, but yeah, definitely be ready to change something if you're having a puzzle. Be ready to change it on the fly if they're getting frustrated. That's something that I neglected doing because
I
don't remember if it was like me just being frustrated that you guys aren't getting it, or just really trying to like really sitting there like they're just not understanding this one part. And I tried to be like, because I remember you guys went into the tavern and I was like, oh, I've not seen any odd people around recently.
Right. Yeah, like in that scenario, maybe like the bartender could have said, I did see some shady people coming here. I think they're planning on meeting here again in 2 days. Is what I overheard. And then it's like, okay, so yeah, if you feel like your players need some help, always try to find a way to give them the information they need in a different way, because maybe they've missed how they were originally supposed to get the information, right?
Yeah.
So be willing and ready to move clues around or have clues come up in a different way to get them to the answer. Because if they haven't found the clue yet and it comes up in wherever they go looking for it, it'll feel like that's what they were supposed to do, and it will still be satisfying. So for that specific scenario, I think that would have worked.
That session started off so good too.
Yeah, that
was the one where like the assassins broke into your room, and then you had like the cool fight, and that was when the one guy that was playing the tree was still there.
yeah, he's playing like an ent, like treant kind of character. So I would say any mysteries or puzzles, be willing to move those clues around and have them come up as naturally as you can in other places if the players miss them, and you should be on a pretty good track. Or I think a good rule is like have your mystery and then have like 3 clues that could like give them the answer to the mystery, but they only need one of them. So like you have 3 potential options of like, oh, this could give them the answer, this could give them the answer, or this could give them the answer. And then they only have to find one. If for some reason they're still confused, they could go looking and maybe find a second one that will, like bring everything together. But yeah, have 3 different clues that can give them the answer, and that they only have to find the one, so that kind of any path they go down, they can figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely was a little put myself in over my head in that one, because it was my first homebrew D&D campaign.
Yeah.
So I try to go big, and then I think I went a little too big, because I've got like, look at this thing, I've got charts and I've got like lists of clues and stuff, and I'm like, this is a little much.
Yeah, for a puzzle. Yeah, it's
I'll have to show you this later. It's a little wild.
Yeah, I take very minimal notes because I like to leave myself a lot of freedom to adapt, because sometimes you think a story might present itself one way, and then a player makes a choice that then suddenly you're like, oh, it would actually be really cool to present it in this way now, because they have this connection to this other NPC or something. So I like to leave my stuff pretty open. My notes can be pretty definitely minimal. I would describe them as bare bones at times, but I think for my style of GMing it works, because I'm very comfortable running things on the fly and improvising. Some people aren't, and so your notes might need to be quite a bit more detailed, and so you'll have to find that balance. I think we've kind of talked about that before. But
I've got, like, looking at my notes from like the last thing I run, the Dungeon World thing, from session 1 to session 7, I started with like a page and a half of notes, and then I ended with like 9 bullet points.
yeah, I'm a big bullet points guy. I love, like, I remember we had a one shot once where to my own fault, I had not prepped for this one shot at all. Like, I think I had a really busy week, and Saturday snuck up on me, and it was the day of, and it's like 10:30. You guys are coming over at like 11, and I'm like just blank page of a journal, just hoping something strikes me. And I think I wrote down like 3 bullet points. Like, I was like, Italian mafia, anarchist rebel group, and like I think I had like one other thing. Like,
I'm trying to remember this one.
And it was the like initial superhero one shot we did, like the first thing.
Yes, that one. Okay,
which famously is one of our
so much fun.
Yeah, this is famously one of our best sessions of like a tabletop RPG we've played. And I literally went into it with 3 bullet points,
dude. And when we started like the fighting the monster in it, the one guy like kills him, and he's like, "Not so big." Fuck.
Yeah, we had a player who like wanted to drop like this really cool one-liner, and he just like fumbled and choked and stuttered, and it was so funny. He was like, "Not so tough when you fuck." It's just. And it was like it worked so well with his character, who's kind of like a more shy, awkward, and then he tries to drop this one-liner and just bombs, and it was so funny.
Dude, yeah. Our campaigns are like pinnacle of enjoyment for me, but some of our one-shots have been so fucking legendary. It's incredible.
Yeah, that was so. It was such a. I just remember it so fondly, and it's so crazy to me that I literally went into that with like 3 bullet points and just and a dream, man.
Yeah,
like
you've never told me that before. It's the first time I've ever.
I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed. I had nothing prepped.
Well, like we were gonna start playing Masks
at the very minimal prep I do for most campaigns.
I remember we were gonna start playing Masks, but you're like, guys, we can't do Masks this week, so I didn't get a chance to read the book. Yeah, and we're like, oh, that's fine. Can we do like a one shot or something? And then you were just you not wanting to disappoint anyone, just went, yes,
yeah, we could do that. Yeah, and so like
I think that was on Thursday or something.
Yeah, and like I just used like the moves that are available in Masks, like the actions, like how you fight or investigate things or move around. Like I used the player moves to like tell you guys what roles to make, but we didn't like have proper character sheets. You kind of just vaguely described.
No, we really didn't make character sheets because
you didn't have sheets. Yeah, you just described.
Yeah, you're like, the way it works is that if you take too many hits, you're like damaged, you're all like on the edge or something, and then narratively, if you get like a really big hit again, like you die or whatever, you're out of the fight. And they were like, "Oh, fuck yeah, that's cool. That means we don't have to keep track of anything on a paper."
Well, that is true with Masks. That the damage in that game just works as like every time it's called like take a big hit or something, and you just roll, and depending on how you roll, like any one take a big hit move could be the end. So that is how that system works.
That's a really cool. Masks is a really cool system. There's just like a lot of. It's really good if you want to play season 1 of Invincible, the TTRPG, because it's
teenage
high school
superheroes, high schooly, which if that's what you're looking for, definitely check out Masks: A New Generation. It's a Powered by the Apocalypse system, and it's fantastic for that. Right, we're actually playing a superhero campaign right now as well, which is our second one that we've done after that one. And we're not using Masks because I wanted to age it up a little bit. I wanted more of like an adult grittier story. So we're not using that. But that is a very incredible system if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah. And so far, this one's pretty good because you're using the, what is it called?
Called Never Stop Blowing Up.
Never Stop Blowing Up.
I've Frankensteined some things together, but that's the basis of our system, is the Never Stop Blowing Up system, system that was written by the Dimension 20 team that they use for action heroes, and I'm like, I think that superheroes would use these things.
I didn't know that was a D20 thing.
Yeah, they have a show of Never Stop Blowing Up where it's like literally built for like playing, Vin Diesel and The Rock and, James Bond, like action heroes doing crazy action hero stuff. But I altered it and stuff to fit some superhero stuff. So
yeah. So because of that, you don't roll too often.
as the GM, I don't roll. No.
But as a player, like we only. Well, I mean, within the like combats, like was like 90% of our rolls.
Yeah, it's a much more narrative system.
Which I enjoy. I would rather just be like, I want to do this, and then you take that as it is, and then
right,
and then we have a good time.
Yeah, it's definitely built around, if you're working with like people who are these like action heroes or superheroes or whatever, it's like, they're going to be able to do most things. Like they're pretty powerful in their own right. So it takes quite a bit, to make them roll to see like, oh, is this possible? Like, so yeah, it's interesting. It's fun so far. We'll have to see how it goes, but
yeah.
All right.
I think that's a pretty good place to stop.
Yeah, I think we got some good stories, some good advice in there. We've been the Gelatinous Dudes. My name is Keegan. This is my best buddy Jake. Please leave a comment or email us. We have our email description, northwoodpod@gmail.com, I believe. Send us any questions, stories you might, or advice that you might need. Or just, any funny tabletop RPG stories or comments about the episode. We'd love to hear from you guys. Check out our other show, The Northwood Project. It's more of a horror anthology, fully scripted audio drama. If you like that style of podcast, you'll really love it. But yeah, I think with that, we've been the Gelatinous Dudes, and we will see you next week.
Bye.